It's understood that holly, ivy and other greenery were originally used in pre-Christian times to mark the winter solstice festival, which is on the shortest day of the year, the 21st of December, but also to ward off evil spirits and to celebrate new growth. Over the centuries, traditions and customs tell of different beliefs, but suffice to say, we all can recognise this evergreen foliage as a symbol of our modern day festive period. However, one interesting traditional saying from the Midlands states that whichever of the holly or the ivy is brought into the house first over winter tells whether the man or woman of the house will rule that year. Holly represents the man, with the ivy favouring the woman. Most evergreen shrubs, and those are the ones that keep their leaves on over winter, can be used for decorating the house. It comes down to personal choice. I tend to choose ivy, holly and conifer foliage as they seem to cope well with central heating, and the conifers, fir trees in particular, give off a lovely fresh Christmas scent. A wander around the garden, and some countryside hedgerows have a good selection too, with a pair of secateurs and a trug will harvest a bounty of foliage for an afternoon's worth of festive floristry. Let's get started. First of all, take the florist's foam and soak it in a basin of water for roughly an hour to ensure its water holding capacity is at its fullest. So, while my oasis foam is soaking, I'll get on with my foliage cutting. Use a sharp pair of secateurs to ensure both your safety and a good clean cut of the stems. Decide which container you're going to use, as this helps determine what size to cut the foliage to. Just to show you, this piece I've cut is too large for this particular size of tub. Cutting a shorter piece now. I need to consider the overall dimensions of the finished decoration. I don't want it to be top heavy. Pulling off about 1/5 of the foliage off of the stem, as I need it to be smooth so it can be inserted into the foam easily and far enough so that it doesn't slide back out. I'll keep this piece as my measuring guide. So I'm just going to cut away to create a good pile of this particular conifer for my decoration. Perhaps this part of the activity could be undertaken with a smaller group or as a one-to-one session with an individual in advance. This could enable multiple benefits by providing more tailored support to your client group. Whilst I'm whizzing through this just now, remember that there is much benefit, pleasure and satisfaction in just doing, going at the client's pace, taking the opportunity to engage in conversation, perhaps stimulated by the activity, or perhaps even enjoying no conversation, just being in the moment. There we go, a good pile. Next lot of foliage here is the yew. Same again, cutting roughly to size, but I'll trim again later if I need to. This is a nice wee tree-shaped branch on its own. I'll keep this and do something with it later. Now to the holly. This is a really jaggy one with lots of nice red berries granted. However, I'm not going to use this as it is just too uncomfortable to work with. Also, the berries might prove too tempting to not pop one into a mouth, so I'll steer clear of them also. This other form of holly has lovely, glossy, non-jaggy leaves. Perfect. Same again, cutting roughly to size. Lastly for now, the ivy. This is great as it adds in lots of volume. And has flower buds too. So, big pile of ivy now. So, now I'm going to have a wee play just to see what foliage I might want to use where and how. Remember, there is no right way. Practice does help, but we don't really want to strive for perfection. Just go with the flow. That's where the fun is. I've got my hopefully well-soaked florist foam, which I'm going to cut roughly to fit all 3 of these tubs. A regular kitchen knife should cut through the foam easily. To help cut a good size, I'm impressing the shape of the tub onto the foam to give me a marker to cut through. You don't need a particularly sharp knife, and the shape doesn't have to be perfect. A bit on the slim side will be fine. We want to leave a little space for watering. And remember to check the container won't leak out water. I don't want my decoration to be as tall as this. It would be top heavy and topple over, so I'm going to cut some of the foam height off. The foam is not fully soaked. Not to worry, I'll put it back in the basin. Third tub now for the Oasis floral foam. This table decoration I'm making is simply layers of foliage. I imagine a rather frothy lady's underskirt, with my first layer of foliage being the sticky out part and the following layers of foliage being the layers of lace and fabric. My first layer now, the sticky out part, is going to be the U. I'll remove about 1/5 of the leaves from the end that will be pushed fully into the foam. I'm using the lip of the tub to be my marker for this first layer. Then repeat and work my way around. First layer complete. On to the next layer, using the yellowy green conifer now. Again, removing the end foliage to leave a clear spike to push fully into the foam. And inserting it at a jaunty angle close to the top edge of the foam. And as before, working my way around, making sure the foliage overlaps and the petticoat does its job. This activity is perfect for a dreich afternoon gathered around a table. Christmas conversation can be most interesting as folks share memories of treats as a child or other magical moments, and of course, making room for obligatory carol singing. It's just ideal for inclusion and reminiscence. Last frothy top dressing now. I'm going to use a mix of the holly and the ivy. And I'm starting at the outer edge of the foam circle and I'll work my way in. It will start to get busy and you might start jamming against other stems inside the foam. But don't worry, just pull it back out and wiggle it to the side a wee bit. Watch out for knobbly bits on the stems. Cut through them to avoid them jamming and not sliding into the foam. As an alternative to florist foam, I have used a tallish jar of washed pebbles and gravel filled to the top that I have then pushed longer stems of foliage into. A bit like a vase, but instead of flowers, it's the Christmas greenery. Really taking shape now and just filling in any blank spots. Here we go. The finishing touches now. I have maroon red dogwood stems that will inject a bit of contrast and colour and shape to the decoration. Some crimson red carnations, and I picked some crinkly fir tree cones that I've dried out and will add the final fling of festiveness to the decoration. So I'll cut the dogwood stems into shorter lengths and stick them in where I find a space probably. Carnations now. I like to work in odd numbers, so I'll pop in 3 stems to add a pop of instant cheer. Remember to cut above a knobbly bit on the stem so it goes in easily. And the final festive flurry now, although some might like to add in a ribbon also, I'll place in 3 fir cones. The decoration I've just demoed may prove too demanding for some, perhaps those with lower levels of concentration or those who struggle with decision making. Have a small pot such as this yogurt pot with a piece of oasis and a small selection of foliage already cut to size, leaving the client the relaxing and satisfying task of pushing the prepared stems into the foam. Being well prepared and keeping the activity as simple and stressless as possible may enable more to still benefit from participating in the activity and enjoying the satisfaction and self-worth of completing their own decoration. And now for the final touch, a carnation stem. And to ensure longevity of the arrangement, give the pot of oasis a good soak every few days. Avoid as much of the foliage if you can, and dry the pot off to save any excess drips landing on the furniture. Many of the client groups we support will not enjoy the privilege of buying a gift for a loved one. A handmade Christmas decoration could prove to be the best Christmas present a loved one receives. A gift tag will hang nicely from a dogwood stem. Happy Christmas, everyone!